Hello and welcome to Tech Trends. I'm Olayemi Oshidende, and here's what we have on the program this week. How can technology transform Africa's health systems and ensure life-saving medicines get to those who need them the most? We'll find out as I speak with Scott Dubin from the Global Fund. Also coming up on the program, tech leaders are calling for more investment in Nigeria's digital economy. We'll take you to Port Harcourt, where innovators gathered for the 10th edition of the Startup South Conference. We'll give you more in just a moment. Do stay with us. This is Tech Trends, and I'm Olayemi Oshidende.
The private sector is the key player in cybersecurity. Private sector companies are the primary victims of cyber intrusions, and they also possess the information, the expertise, and the knowledge to address cyber intrusions and cybercrime in general.
When we talk about technology, most people think about apps, gadgets, or fintech. But some of the biggest breakthroughs are happening quietly, solving the world's most pressing problems. One area where this is especially critical is health logistics, the systems that determine whether medicines and vaccines reach the people who need them the most. My guest this week is Scott Dubin, a supply chain private sector engagement advisor at the Global Fund. And we'll be discussing how digital platforms are changing the game for health logistics and what lessons Nigeria's tech ecosystem can take away. Scott, let's start from a broad view. You've walked across the USAID, the US State Department, and of course now the Global Fund. From that vintage point, why would you say supply chains are such a crucial but often overlooked part of global health?
Well, you're correct. It is crucial. And I think overlooked because it's often what happens in the background. And we really don't appreciate logistics in whatever sector until there's a problem. But it's kind of always functioning. And the investments typically are perhaps focused in more visible areas. But really, for things to go right, much depends on logistics. Essentially, from my experience, whether it's in health or humanitarian relief, it relies on access to the products getting there, right? First, of course, you need access to medical professionals, you need access to medicines, but logistics and then technology behind that is really what gets things where they need to be. So the supply chain functions better and people get the products they need when they need them.
And what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've seen in Africa, especially when it comes to moving medicines and health products to the people who often need them the most?
Well, often we see the issue being that you cannot find easily the logistics providers where they are when you need them. It takes a lot of time to find those providers. You might not find as many as you need. And therefore, we don't have as much competition. And a lack of competition, as we see in many sectors, reduces the quality of the work and often increases the price. And that has two negative downsides that we see in both that more money is being spent on logistics. We see in many countries that 3 to 4 times the amount is spent on logistics versus more mature markets. That means there's less product that can be bought for the people who need it. But also it means that product might not get there in time or it might not get there at all. And that has serious implications. And we see this repeatedly. And my preference and what everybody's preference would be is that logistics isn't a bottleneck, which we've seen it be, but rather an enabler. And we've seen in many markets where logistics has enabled amazing growth, whether that be in retail or even food delivery for that matter.
I completely agree with you there, Scott. And it kind of brings back memories of when COVID-19 struck and many countries weren't exactly prepared for that kind of situation. But I'm sure you'd also agree with me that digital platforms have brought a lot of transformation to a lot of sectors. I mean, we're talking about agriculture, we're talking about finance, and even health, like we're discussing here in Africa. And then there's the logistics marketplace that you are a part of. How would you say this platform and others like it are bringing that same digital disruption into health logistics?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, it's a great question because we've seen in other sectors, and we'll take retail or food delivery, for example, whereas we bring together the customer, the provider, whether it's a restaurant or a shop, and logistics providers. That used to be quite fragmented, right? And if we start to make it easier for those parties to interact, we have much better results. And what we try to do is intervene, or what we're trying to do rather, is intervene in this particular issue because we haven't seen it addressed. And like many systemic issues, we weren't quite sure who was going to tackle this issue. And since the cost of not doing anything has gotten even higher, we decided to create the logistics marketplace to really make it easier for buyers of logistics services to find those providers, and also providers to make buyers aware of their services. So what we try to do is make it more accessible for each party to identify each other, to engage, to put out requests for procurement. And that really reduces the friction that we see every day in the system. And through that, we're going to see increased value, meaning better performance and lower costs, which ultimately means products are getting where they need to be. Because these products, while we're making the analogy and equating it to food delivery and retail, these products are life-saving and critical products that if they don't get there, they have really serious repercussions. And so success in logistics means lives are saved.
Interesting points you made right there. And from what I know, the marketplace has been, likened to called a global good. And if you're going to describe a solution as a global good, it has to get to the last mile. It has to get to those who ordinarily wouldn't have access to such things. So, Scott, let's understand the kind of tech that's powering this platform. There's AI, there's data analytics, cloud computing. How are these technologies powering this platform? How are they making supply chains more transparent and efficient? And that's the key word there, efficient, especially in places with fragmented health systems and, during crisis as well.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head. I would say that technology in our space is doing an excellent job of integrating and providing visibility across many fragmented systems. As we see in certain health supply chains, you might have 12 or more supply chains, 20 different sets of data that is existing within any particular health area. And that causes fragmentation. It's very difficult to operate in that space. And so we see that there needs to be improvements in terms of the logistics being provided, and really great efforts have been made. And also the challenge being that how do we connect those who need logistics services to those who offer it, right? So technology is helping on both sides, right? We're seeing constant improvements and really interesting work happening in Africa around tech related to health technology and health logistics specifically. But often it's very hard for that technology to transfer over into everyday use. And there's a variety of reasons for it. But the area that the logistics marketplace is really focused on is how do we connect those who provide these services to those who want to buy them. And so therefore the platform is making it so that it's a transparent marketplace where you can log in, you can look for the types of providers you want in terms of the services they offer, the locations they operate in, and a whole host of other parameters you might want to search by. And then you can engage with them. You can actually post RFPs on the website. You can reach out and contact them directly to have further discussions. And this all really speeds up the process and allows for ultimately better results on the back end. And other technologies involved that we will be adding to the system is really around, as you mentioned, AI can play a really important role in helping with the procurement process. It can help with the creation of tender documents, such as scopes of work. And a lot of that takes time and needs refinement. And if we can speed up that process through AI, that will be really valuable to those who are looking to buy logistics services, but have to put the proper documentation in place and really enough detail so they get the responses that they need. But overall in the space, our solution is part of larger advancements in technology, which are helping the logistics in regards to health. We're seeing lots of technology that might have only been available to the likes of Coca-Cola or Unilever, now being able to be utilized by small mom and pop organizations, government central medical stores, others operating in the health and the humanitarian supply chain space really can access quite complicated tools that have really been simplified and don't require extensive IT knowledge for someone to be managing this process. And that's the exciting trend that we're seeing in our space and why I think it's really quite ripe for change, as we've seen in other sectors.
Looking at statistics, Scott, Africa carries a significant share of the global burden of neglected tropical diseases. And Nigeria alone accounts for like 25% of that, and that's like over 100 million people, right? From your perspective, how can digital platforms like this help change the story here?
Yeah, you're right. It's quite a large amount. About 84% of Nigerians require medical services related to NTDs. And the burden on Nigeria, as you mentioned, is quite significant. Almost $20 billion is impacted in terms of the economy. And if we're able to meet the goals set by the UN for 2030, we could see a drastic impact in terms of the economic implications. And so certainly this is a health story. It's also an economics story. And I don't want to overlook the issue that has to do with children who are dealing with NTDs, and both the children and the caregivers, right? So the children we see are losing potential earnings by being held back in terms of education as a result of NTDs. Over $7 billion they see that they say is the implications of the result of NTDs on the youth, right? And then over $5 billion on those caretakers who are unable to participate in the economy as they normally would. And so it is a quite a large impact through NTDs and really quite concentrated in Nigeria. And what we see is that, and what WHO is saying, and even the Nigerian government, is that logistics is really the key component here, because the medicines are available. They exist. They don't need to be created. They have been around a long time. The issue is, how do we get those medicines to the people that need them when they need them? And this is really where we see how we're going to help solve the NTD issue is around logistics. And the logistics marketplace we see as being something that weaves quite nicely into the work that's already being done, and just making it easier for the right logistics providers to be engaged at the right price, and we can get the products where they need to be.
Thank you for breaking that down, Scott. Now, we see a lot of Nigerian startups building for, the urban middle-class markets. And by this, I mean that when we see solutions for the underserved and rural communities, they're mostly about financial inclusion. And this is not to say that we do not have logistics or delivery platforms. It's just that, not a lot of them are focused on health. What opportunities do you see for Nigerian innovators and startups to plug into this space, whether through partnerships or maybe local solutions that they have come up with, or integration with global efforts?
Yeah, I think it's important to say that some of the most exciting work in health technology right now is coming out of Africa. And every day, governments and innovators in the private sector are coming out with really quite incredible solutions. And I think what we want to make sure is that those who need to access them are able to access them. And we really want to see a democratization of technology, right? As we've seen in other sectors. Therefore, technology becomes accessible and simple and affordable to all, right? And we're seeing a lot of opportunity here for that to occur. And it is the direction that we're heading in. But ultimately, it is this pace of technology, which is so quick. And we've been really excited to see in other areas where technology has allowed quite drastic changes, whether, again, it be in banking or retail or even the food delivery, as mentioned earlier. These things have a very interesting effect where they start to gain traction. It becomes cheaper for them to be used moving forward, and it makes it more accessible to those who might not initially be able to afford the type of technology that we've seen when it first comes out. But I feel, and I think others are seeing, and I'm sure as you see across other sectors that you look at technology, the rate of adoption and the reduction of cost is quite large. And I think the health market, the health systems are really quite ripe for this change to take place. And there's lots of great companies who are out there creating solutions. And I would point to the work that Salient Advisory does in regards to identifying those innovators in the health space. So they put out a report and they have a list of those companies. They are there. I think the big question is, how do we start to get that work integrated? And we've seen it here and there, but really the core of my work is how do we how do we continue and move that type of technology into logistics, as well as the work that's already being done, moving it into health services. But it's all very ripe for it to accelerate from this point forward. And we're excited to be part of it by helping to match those who need particular services and logistics with those who offer them.
It would really be nice to see technologies like this being deployed and integrated for the last mile. Well, That will be all for this conversation. Scott Dubin, Supply Chain Private Sector Engagement Advisor at the Global Fund. Thank you so much for joining us on Tech Trends.
Thank you for having me, Oliemi. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Tech leaders in the southern part of the country are calling for increased investment in Nigeria's digital sector to drive sustainable economic growth. This is one of the key takeaways from the 10th edition of the Startup South Conference held in Port Harcourt, where industry players, investors, and innovators gathered to discuss the future of the nation's tech ecosystem.
And exports readiness.
At a gathering of innovators, investors, and digital leaders in Port Harcourt, all coming together to mark the 10th edition of the Startup South Conference.
I believe it's our Nigerian way of, I won't call it a...
Over the years, Startup South has grown into one of the leading regional tech conferences in Nigeria, connecting founders across the South and beyond. Some top tech executives at this year's edition are calling for more investment in Nigeria's digital sector, a move they say is crucial for building a prosperous economy driven by innovation.
This year we had more people responding as incubators, but as of last year, you had almost 60% of the respondents as digital skills hub. That's basically training digital skills. The implication of this, obviously, when it comes to employment, is that there were a lot of digital skills that the region could not employ. So, and even the people who had the skills and were working from the region were working remotely for companies in Lagos and some other places. And that was what we found last year. The story hasn't changed much this year. Wherever you cannot measure, cannot grow. And so if we are an ecosystem development organization, then we must be able to measure the ecosystem that we're developing over time.
From tech leaders to startup founders, conversations center on how technology can create opportunities across the country.
Sometimes they're not exactly one-to-one, sometimes it's not very obvious, but the truth is, for every amazing opportunity, for every great successful product, for every great company, great founder, for every billionaire, let's even go down to money terms, for anyone who's delivered impact as an organization, as a social entrepreneur, they think of a problem, they sort of envision the possibility of a solution, and they drive very hard at it. You walk in somewhere, you make a payment, despite the fact that we didn't have fiber cable then, somehow your payment goes through. And when your payment eventually goes through, you have been debited. Your money has not been reversed, and you're stuck in a supermarket and they say you cannot go until madam gets the alert. And then somebody thought of that and said, why don't I just put the alert on the POS? And right there and then you get the alert on the POS and you walk away.
Also under the spotlight, the issue of internet speed and connectivity in the southern region.
Lagos has better access to internet, simple and short, more than every other region. The question is why? Submarine cable is fiber cable laid through the sea from Europe all the way to wherever you are going to. 8 are in Nigeria, and out of these 8, 7 is in Lagos. So that is the first part, which means Lagos has better access. But the good thing, as I mentioned, is it is changing because Equinix, with To Africa, we'll come to that, has been able to lay the first submarine that landed in the South-South, which means we are at the verge of changing the game. Now the question is, how ready are we, the young and everybody here, how ready are we to latch onto that to be able to benefit from it?
The people in the media should also be actively.
For many startup founders, the conference also provides an opportunity to engage with journalists, exploring better ways to tell their stories and attract visibility.
Different countries, different societies have different media cultures.
10 years on, Startup South continues to amplify the voices of innovators outside the country's main tech hubs, showing that the digital future truly belongs to everyone. Muhammad Habib Hussaini, a student of the Department of Computer and Communications Engineering at Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University in Bauchi, has created the NHED Smart Glove. This advanced wearable device converts sign language into spoken words.
How are you now? The project or the device is still very much under construction. It's a prototype now, and it has faced so many challenges in terms of accuracy and efficiency. Like for instance, there's limited sensors. I had to work with limited materials, so I had to cut corners when it comes to giving out quick and responsive output.
The innovation, powered by AI, is set to transform communication for all people with speech or hearing impairments.
The inspiration behind the Net Smart Glove is actually my immediate younger sister. My immediate younger sister is born with the ability of not being able to talk.
Despite equipment and material shortages, Hussaini pushed forward with this project, driven by support from his university peers and his determination to improve communication for sign language users.
Upon coming into work at Tafawa Balewa University, I got exposure, meet so many people of different like minds, and then we also worked with so many things. We work on so many projects together, and the internet has a wide library, limitless library. I got so many ideas from the internet as well. The major challenge I had was lack of resources, such as a personal computer. I was in a situation whereby I had to be borrowing people's laptop, writing my code here, transferring to another person's laptop if the owner of the initial laptop collects it. So that was one of the major challenges I faced. And then secondly, I faced challenges of materials. The raw materials I used were limited, and some were not even available at all. I had to order them online. People with special abilities are living evidence that limits can lead if only they have the right aid or the right resources to be able to project their abilities. And that's what the Net Smart Glove is set out to do.
He also planned to make major improvements to the current prototype, noting that he would expand the vocabulary it can handle and the glove structure as well, increasing from 5 to 10 fingers. Dr. Issa Mohammed, one of Hussaini's lecturers, discussed the collaborative efforts and expressed the support for the students to persist in his future path.
The first time we met was during the Royal Academy of Engineering hackathon organized under the Faculty of Engineering, ATB here. And then the project presented, it was about electricity generation from animal hoof, specifically from a cow. And then from that engagement, and we've been working together in terms of innovation. With the way the boy is going, I think there are a lot of things that he can come up with, particularly the solution that will help the people with disabilities.
The NHED Smart Glove, designed and built by Hussaini, uses pressure sensors and a microcontroller to detect finger and hand movements, instantly translating them into spoken language.
Technologia.
This innovative device aims to bridge communication gaps and is gaining recognition for its potential to help thousands in Nigeria and beyond. Various sources suggest that the number of people suffering from speech disorders vary from 30 to 44.4%. The majority of cases are among children.
And that's all for this week on Tech Trends. I hope you enjoyed the episode and picked up something new along the way. Remember, Tech Trends is here to keep you updated on insights, trends, and developments happening in the tech space. Also, don't forget, you can catch all our episodes on the channel's TV YouTube account. Make sure to watch, share, and like your favorite editions. Until I come your way again, I'm Olayemi Oshidende, and I'll see you next time.